Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And today I am here with one of the top mentalists in the country, somebody who has literally written the book on mentalism, not once, but twice. He has had an incredible career. He knows everybody. He's done it. He's walked the walk. He's bought the t-shirt. Super nice guy as well. Super creative. I am, of course, talking about Mr. Harpacrown himself, Mark Chandaue. How you doing, Mark? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, Craig. Really looking forward to this interview.
I am so glad that you found time to do this because, as you know, I've only just recently started reading your books, but what I've read so far and the stuff that I've seen is incredible. And it's like I don't know why I didn't read them before. It's like they kind of passed me by and I was kicking myself because I could have been doing this awesome material for like the last several years and I completely missed out. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. So seriously, thank you for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it.
I'm really glad to be here, and as I say, I hope you enjoy the book. I tried to make the books fun to read as well as informative, so hopefully you get that from it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people on the channel have been saying to me, when are you going to interview Mark Chandaue? When are you going to interview him? Because we all want to see an interview. So it's a long time coming, and I'm glad that we've managed to get our schedules to mesh so we're able to do this. And you know, I want to talk about everything because you've had such an incredible career, and I want to talk about everything all the way through it. And I want to talk about all the different things you've done, and because I know you've got lots of stories. So for anybody who's watching this that hasn't read your books or don't know who you are, I think we need to just start at the very beginning, if that's okay. Give people a kind of a frame of reference. So can we start off, Mark, by talking about your origin story? Because having read your book and having read a particular chapter in book number 1, I know that you had a very kind of interesting upbringing as a child and a very interesting kind of journey into magic. It's very different to a lot of other people who talk about having a, you know, like a coin pulled behind their ear from when they were 18 years old. Your journey into magic is a lot more different. It's almost like you were destined to be in magic. Can we talk about that? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. And a lot of it stems from the fact that my father was a magician, and not just a magician, he was a very skilled magician. Back in the old days, a lot of people just knew him as the blind man because he was totally blind, but achieved AIMC with Silver Star. And Bobby Bernard told me that he got full marks on his exam, and they didn't take into account his disability at all because it was for AIMC. So I grew up seeing magic, seeing my dad get ready for gigs, doing his zombie ball and God knows what else. Getting me pocket money was an absolute nightmare every week. I used to get £2 a week pocket money, or 10p to the younger generation. And my dad would get the 10p out, put it in my hand, it was a penny. Take it out, oh, it's a sixpence, so now it's disappeared. You know, all of that. And it would take about 10 minutes to get me pocket money. It really started for me, magic was, I hadn't started school yet, but my 2 older brothers were both at school. So I would have been around 4. And I said to my dad, oh, can you show me some tricks? And he went over to his bookcase and he pulled out a copy of Bobo's and he gave it to me. He said, well, read that. He said, then you can come and show me some tricks. And of course, he was just being, I wouldn't go as far as say sarcastic, but he was just playing because knowing I hadn't been to school yet, knowing I couldn't read, I think he thought I'd go away, look at the pictures for a while and leave him alone. Me being autistic, although we didn't have such things when I was a kid, I was just weird and a bit strange. But me being autistic, I took him at his word, go away and read it. So I then pestered me mum and my dad, what's this word, what's this word? And I learned to read from Bobo's book. So the very first book I read was Bobo's book. And kind of around about my 5th birthday, I showed me dad coins across. And this was before he'd gone blind. He went blind when I was about 6 or 7, so he could still see. And he watched me do the effect, and he was like, "Oh, good move." And of course, he was really proud. And that really, I suppose, getting that kind of approval from my father really spurred me on.
Yeah.
And so I then really studied that book. And over the years, I stuck with coins because my father was such a well-respected card magician that I thought, if I do cards, I'm going to just permanently be compared to my dad. And I thought, I'm never going to measure up. So I thought, if I do coins, then we've got that different differentiation. I mean, I did, you know, move on to Royal Road and Expert at the card table and so on. But coins was my love. And I used to work hours and hours on coin magic.
That's fantastic. And you were telling me a story. When you were growing up and you were learning this magic, was the goal to be a professional magician? Because your dad was obviously making money from magic. Did you want to do the same? Did you want to follow in your dad's footsteps?
I think I kind of went through phases, but so sometimes I wanted to do it for a living. Other times I was just focused on being good at it. I just wanted to be good, particularly with the coin magic. I wanted to be as good as I could. So I think early on, I was probably more interested in performing for magicians than performing for the public. There's this funny thing where you really work so hard on sleight of hand, and you work so hard to make it look like you're not doing anything. And so there's this element of layman couldn't appreciate it, because to layman it looked like I did nothing. Whereas a magician could appreciate the skill that went in. So in my early days, I was probably more interested in doing tricks for other magicians than laymen. That said, you know, I couldn't go in a pub without performing. Everywhere I went, pack of cards, thumb tip, coins, the full Monty. And so whilst as a kid, there were times when I probably wanted to be a magician. When I actually started doing it full time, it was more a case of, you know, initially I was doing talent shows and that kind of thing. And somebody asked me to do a wedding for their daughter, did the wedding. From doing that wedding, I got another couple of weddings booked, and then I got a Masonic ladies night booked. And eventually what I found was actually the performing was getting in, or work was getting in the way of performing. So I kind of then become a full-time magician. So it was more a case of, I wouldn't say I drifted into it, but it was, I didn't kind of wake up one day and go, I'm going to be a professional magician. It was more a case of, oh, this work's getting, this job's getting in the way. I need to quit that and just focus on the magic.
And when did you go full time? How old were you?
Oh, about 18, thereabouts.
Okay.
Maybe just slightly before 18. And again, funny enough, Bobby Bernard was acting as my manager back then as well. So he was pushing me. Interestingly, he sent me for elocution lessons because I had a really, you know, strong Cockney accent. I also had a bit of a speech impediment, which hopefully is not quite so noticeable now, but I had very bad nasal speech, and I'd been to speech therapists and everything, no joy. Bobby sent me for elocution lessons, and I did the whole Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, if Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, and so on. Did all that and learned to speak what back then they used to call BBC English, which is good English, but with no accent. So it's not like a posh accent. It's just a very clear and neutral accent. And through that those elocution lessons, I also overcame the speech impediment. So that was good.
Yeah.
But Bobby wanted me to be kind of, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Chandaue and I'm a magician. And of course, the reality is, a lot of the work that I was getting then was in East End pubs. You don't really see it nowadays, but back then you used to have like a cabaret on a Saturday night in a pub. Sometimes Friday night. Sometimes you'd have a stripper and you'd have a comedian or a magician. So I was doing a lot of those sort of gigs, and so I was relying on my Cockney accent. So after spending all this money and time on elocution lessons, I used to come out in a pub in a tuxedo, and my kind of opening was, evening, ladies and gentlemen, like the suit, I used to be a bouncer. Yeah, you can laugh, mate, but I've got rubber balls, haven't I? It was, you know, a lot more down market. But I found I was getting a lot more work as a cheeky Cockney than I was getting as a well-spoken performer.
That's really interesting. So a lot happened to you when you were 18. So you went and started performing full time. You were primarily a coin guy as well, weren't you? I mean, you told me a story about just off camera about how they asked you got asked by Ron to lecture at Ron Macmillan's when you were 18, which was incredible. I mean, that must have been a huge opportunity.
I think some of it, though, some of that came about because Ron was a family friend. So Ron and my dad were very close. In fact, it was Ron Macmillan and Harry Barron that basically came up with my stage name for my dad. They all worked together in Gamages, which was a big magic shop up in London. In fact, it might have been a department store with a well-respected magic department. And I think I was outside the shop having a smoke one day, and one of them said to me dad, Ron his name was, they said, Ron, we've got to come up with a stage name for you. We can't keep calling you Cardoma Bush. And as he said that, a lorry went past. It was like a perfume lorry, had the name Chandaue on the side, with that French spelling that that we see on here. And so Ron Macmillan said, well, what about Ron Chandaue? And then Harry Barron said, well, what about Ross? It sounds more American, which in the 50s was very desirable. And so at that moment, Ross Chandaue was born. So I think when I started out, I spent a lot of my time in Ron's studio and a lot of time with Ron. So I think him, and if you know Ron liked to drink. So I think when he asked me to lecture, it was partly the fact that he was very far gone, and partly that kind of loyalty, family, friendness, not necessarily that he thought I was so amazing that I deserved to be on the bill. Luckily, I was clever enough to realise I did not deserve to be on the same bill as Towers. And so I went, don't be daft, Ron. And I've never regretted that decision.
But how did your career go from going full-time at 18? Because obviously, having read the book, I know that 18, your dad passed away, and it kind of affected you for a few years as well, didn't it?
Yeah, well, my dad actually passed away when I was 15. So,
oh, right, sorry.
So when I was 15, I became independent because my mum was kind of out of the picture when I was very small. So my dad, despite being blind, brought me and my two brothers up single-handedly and made it look easy. So he died at 15, and so I kind of left school and started work, got a job as an apprentice upholsterer, which I eventually quit because you can almost still see evidence of it on this finger, but where you're pulling the material for the chairs, you get calluses on your finger and thumb. And I was starting to get calluses, which was getting in the way of me being a coin magician. So so I quit that, had a few other different jobs, and then eventually, as I say, the magic work built up to the point where it actually made more sense to do the magic. And really, I had no idea what I was doing from should we say, a business perspective. I had no real idea how to build an act or anything. It was really through doing gigs, the act would gradually improve, and in the end, I got it to the point where it didn't change for 30 years. Once I kind of got it to where I wanted, I'd have to change some of the lines to be more topical or so on. But the actual trick, the first change I made was when they brought in a no smoking rule, and so I had to get rid of the cigarette and jacket. But also, I then ended up being the resident magician at Hamleys. This is back in the days before Marvin's Magic.
Okay.
In fact, as far as I'm aware, I was the last ever Hamleys resident magician. I think after I left, shortly after that, they brought in Marvin's, and instead of running their own magic department, did it as a concession. But that was an ambition of mine, because my father had been, I think after Gamages, he went to Hamleys and was the Hamleys resident magician. And back in those days, it was kind of quite I suppose, nowadays he's technically a dealer, but back then it kind of had a little bit of kudos to it, because Hamleys was the big famous shop, and their magic department was catering to professionals rather than the general public. So I had an opportunity to do a winter season in Switzerland, or become the Hamleys resident magician. And of course, because of that link to my father, I jumped on the Hamleys resident magician, which in hindsight, the winter season in Switzerland probably was the better gig. And then so for 5 years, I was Hamleys resident magician, still performing in the evenings and weekends, but mostly there.
That's great.
And it was around about that time that I think the thing you was alluding to when you asked the question is, and I'm like Pete Turner, I'll go off on tangents, so you might have to.
That's fine. I'm used to it. I've interviewed Pete. It's all good.
But yeah, so while I was at Hamleys, I ended up becoming homeless, and ended up sort of on the streets. And so from there, I then went busking at Covent Garden. My friend we spoke about, I think before the interview, Nick Nicholas, my best mate, former pupil, but I learned more from Nick than I ever taught him. Nick is just a born entertainer, and he actually, his origin story, even though you're not interviewing Nick Nicholas, is that he got sacked from every job he ever had, so he ended up just busking in Covent Garden, and he's still and 35 odd years later, he's still busking and one of the best in the world, and he's now in the Busking Hall of Fame. But so Nick was doing Covent Garden, so I went and did Covent Garden as well, and so I then spent a few years busking, doing the Bill in Lemon, and almost doing a louder version of my cabaret. And in fact, a lot of what became my cabaret formed, or the roots of it formed on the streets. And I highly recommend busking, because the thing with busking is, if you don't entertain, you don't eat. It is, you know, when you first go out there, you'll be crap. Unless you're really lucky. I mean, Nick went out and was brilliant from day one, but he's just born to entertain.
Yeah.
But you start out and you can't get the crowd, and you can't, or you can get the crowd, but you can't hold them. And over time, you figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then you're getting a crowd, you're getting money, and actually, you know, earning enough to eat, and so on. So for me, Covent Garden was, those were happy days. That time busking.
Wow. Let me clarify one thing as we're going through your story. The busking that you've talked about, the cabaret that you've talked about, uh, it sounds like most of what you were doing was stage magic.
Yeah,
But we know, but you talked about how you were a very, competent close-up coin worker at the beginning. Were you doing close-up, or were you primarily working on stage?
I was initially I was primarily working on stage. Now this is a kind of almost like I don't know, a paradox in that as a magician, I loved close up. I loved coins, and I've got up there the first edition expert coin, David Roth book, and I've got the the original coin magic. Funny enough, when you look at Harpacrown, it's inspired by Richard Kaufman. That's why I use line drawn illustration. I mean, I could never hope to be in that class, but it is using those line drawn illustrations is almost like my homage to Richard Kaufman and those books, because coin magic just changed everything. And then Complete Works, Derek Dingle. So that was what I loved, was that close-up card magic, close-up magic. But it's magic that, and I think you've alluded to this on your channel, it's magic that you can't really do in the real world unless you have a very, like this setting here, it's like I learnt Slidini's torn and restored cigarette. I never ever got the opportunity to perform that to an audience, because you just, other than at conventions, you very rarely have the opportunity to do that sit down show. So that was what I loved. But what I enjoyed performing was cabaret. I didn't enjoy table hopping, as it was called back then. But the thing is in that period, the 80s, there was a massive boom of table hopping. Even McDonald's in Marble Arch had magicians.
Wow.
That's how big the boom was. And so there was a lot of magicians around in those days, but there was a lot of work, and it generally paid quite good. You had, I think it was, I can't remember if it's called Secrets or Rumors, but in Regent Street there was a restaurant dedicated to magic. It had like a hidden door in a bookcase and stuff. Never performed there, mind you, but it was a real boom for close-up magic, and that's where the money was. So I had to do close-up, but I didn't enjoy it. And this is probably a lesson for a lot of people. Kind of learn from my mistake. You'll learn. I've got more mistakes you can learn from than I have successes. It's like you say I've had an incredible career. No, I've kind of stumbled through an average career, and sort of just come out still smiling. You look at people like Gary Jones. These are guys that got their head screwed on and knew what they were doing. Funny enough, many moons ago, I worked with Gary Jones, and we crossed paths on the circuit, so to speak. But Gary had his head screwed on. I was really stumbling through. I know how to do magic, and that's all I know. And so the first lesson is learn about business, because it's called show business for a reason, and it's a hell of a lot more business than it is show. So if you understand business, you'll have a much easier time than me. For me, being a full-time performer was work. It wasn't fun, it was work. The close-up stuff I was doing wasn't the stuff I enjoy. The stuff I enjoy was hanging coins and portable hole and the Slidini torn and restored cigarette and those kind of things. Even, I know 40 different ways to do coins across with gallow pitches and that kind of thing. In the end, I mean, coins across that I did at tables was pretty much, just Oh, I can't do it now. This, funny enough, this is the reason, as partly my hands are frozen dry, but partly the reason that I turned to mentalism is I found I'm starting to get arthritis in my hands. And so my hands don't work the way they used to. So a lot of the stuff that used to be really easy to me, I can't do anymore. But it was literally, I would literally just do, for table hopping, I would literally just do a bunch of hangpin chimes, which I can't even palm a coin anymore. You know,
It was good to me.
But the thing is, it's like you spend all that time learning gallow pitches and so on, and then you realise when you go out and you're doing 30 tables, whatever works, you know, the easy stuff. And funny enough, some of that I learned from Nicholas. I was trying to teach him really clever stuff, you know, but all Nick was interested in was entertaining. And, you know, I'd show him an invisible pass. He'd say, but you don't need that. You can literally just say, oh, sorry, did you see his card? And, you know, you're cutting the deck. And he was like, that's all you need to do. And he was right. You know, it is important to get your technique to a good level.
Yeah.
But it's far more important to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And so what I was doing is I was doing, you know, typical close-up fair, ambitious card routine, sponge balls, salt pour, you know, all of that kind of thing. It wasn't fun, it was work, it was conveyor belt magic. Go to this table, go to that table. When I don't do a lot of close-up now because where I'm doing mentalism, if I had a big close-up gig, I'd probably go in and do magic rather than mentalism. But when I do some close-up mentalism, if I'm doing a cabaret at a banquet, I work mostly banquets these days, but not doing tables. It's usually Masonic ladies' nights, and I do a cabaret after the speeches. Yeah. And before the dancing, or in some occasions they may want me to do a spot when the band takes their break. But I might do a bit of mix and mingle in those, and I'll do mentalism. And I enjoy it now because back then all I knew was do the tricks. You know, now it's more about engaging with people, and mentalism lends itself to that. So my close-up set for mentalism is almost entirely reading based. So I don't kind of come up and say, oh, hello, my name's Mark, I'm a magician, would you like me to say some tricks? I literally sort of say, hi, my name's Mark, would you like me to tell you something about yourself? And that, oh yeah, we'd like to know about ourselves. And so, and the routines I do are all based around reading. So I do one of the free will effects from Totally Free Will, and I finish with a magician's graphology, Andy Nyman, where we give multiple people a reading while doing a drawing dude. But it's much more about engaging with those people. So I enjoy it more now. When I was work, it was work. The close-up was work. Yeah. It paid the bills, but I didn't enjoy it. The cabaret I enjoyed, but I used to have terrible stage fright. I don't seem to have that now. But the stage fright came from two areas. One was the old imposter syndrome, where every time I went on, I was like, is today the day they realise I'm shit?
Okay.
So I never really felt good enough. And even today, I still say I'm an average performer. You look at someone like Pete Turner, a lot of people have only seen Pete at conventions. I've actually seen Pete do a formal cabaret show, and he's a really good entertainer. You know, you look at Luca Volpe again, really good entertainer. I say I'm an average performer. I've got by on the fact that I'm the best they've seen. unless they went to see Darren Brown the night before. But the reality is most people don't see live magic. No. So they don't look at me and go, oh, well, you know, he's not as slick as Luca Volpe, or he's not as smooth as Pete Turner. They just go, oh, wow, I've never seen this stuff live. He's really good. And he made me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
So I get by on being funny, really. I try and put a lot of comedy, even the mentalism. I try and make it funny. I try and make people laugh, because people want to be entertained. They, you know, often you read on forums people saying, oh, you know, keep it meaningful and change their lives. And no, you're an entertainer. You're there to give them 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes of relaxed entertainment. You're there to give them an escape for a period of time. You know, make them laugh. You're not there to teach them anything. You're not there to change their lives. You're there to give them a fun night. Yeah, so to me, performing was work because I was just doing what sells, not necessarily what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Even my cabaret act, it was probably more comedy than magic. I mean, there was the Bill and Lemon, but in Harpacrown too, in the scripting section, you'll see my Bill and Lemon routine. It was more comedy with the kind of final magic at the end. I did the older version, the pre-technology version of Leo Manner's selfie trick. And again, you know, I get 10 minutes out of that, just getting people dressed up and, you know, having a whisk at their head and, you know, all of those things. So even my cabaret act, the amount of magic in it was minimal, but it paying the bills.
Did you find it difficult when you got to the point where you thought, right, I'm going to go into mentalism? Did you find it difficult transitioning from being what is in essence a comedy magician and a coin magician to going into mentalism? Because they are, you know, when you're a comedy magician and you do whisks on your head and all this sort of stuff, people know that you're not really doing magic and that you're there really to just entertain them. But with mentalism, people now suddenly start questioning, well, hang on a second, there's something to this. I don't know what it is, but there's something to this. How difficult was that transition?
And I would say, in one sense it was easy, in one sense it was difficult, because the good thing is I'd had a layoff from magic. So after going professional, I was doing again, and this is probably another place I crossed paths with Gary Jones, was I was doing the holiday camps, which is horrible work. You know, you've got a room full of people, maybe 10 people interested. Most people in the holiday camp, they go to the clubhouse for the beer and to socialise. The entertainment is secondary. So I was doing a lot of holiday camp work, which is, you know, one day you're in Bognor, the next day you're in Margate, then you might be sort of down somewhere in Devon. So once I got to the point where I was looking to get married, have kids and so on, I thought I've got to get a proper job. Whilst magic was paying the bills, the problem with magic is, you know, it's all feast or famine. You have 1 month, you might earn 2-3 grand, and then you might go, like the next month, you've got 200. I mean, I'm looking at the 80s as well, so it's like the next month you might get 200 quid. Yeah. Now, if you're getting 200 quid in a month, that's, you know, for me, that's 20 gigs. But, but yeah, so, you know, like Christmas, happy days, loads of money. You're working your knackers off for Christmas. And then January, all of a sudden, dead. And I don't know nowadays what the flow is, because I wanted stability, and I also wanted to be at home. I didn't want to have kids and I'm permanently on the road. So I thought, I've got to get a proper job. Once I got a proper job, I still had all of these sort of fulfilling gigs. So I would still be getting repeat bookings. And in fact, I've got, you know, some clients that I've been performing for 30 years. Not necessarily every year. There's one Sonic Lodge where I'll do their Christmas meal one year, then the next year they have a singer or something else, and then the year after that I might come back. I also do their ladies' nights on like a 4-year kind of schedule. So I had enough work to kind of keep me, shall we say, interested.
Yes.
But at the same time, I didn't have the pressure. I didn't have to worry about, am I going to get, you know, enough work next month? Am I going to be able to pay the bills? And also, I didn't have to worry, where am I going to be from one week to the next? So I was still keeping my hand in, but I wasn't now working regularly, and I'd pretty much dropped the table hopping altogether. So I was just doing that, those cabaret shows. So when I turned to mentalism, I was also really lucky that my day job, my day job is that I teach banks how to detect and prevent credit card fraud. And ironically, I've gone all over the world doing that. So I quit magic. I quit magic to not have to travel. And then I get a job where one week I'm in Dubai, then I'm in India, then I'm in, you know, Madrid or somewhere. But I mean, that said, these days it's all done over Teams. But in that environment where I'm doing these kind of seminars and things, it gives me a really safe place to test material and to test that transition to mentalism. So, you know, we say, oh, we'll go for a break. When we come back, we'll just try something a bit fun, and then we'll get back into the, you know, the complex topic. So, you know, we could have come back from a break and I could perform a mentalism routine. And the beautiful thing is I'm not there as a mentalist. I'm there as an expert in fraud and so on. So there's no pressure on me. The trick is crap. Nobody cares. They're more interested in whether I'm a good trainer than a good performer. So it gives me this really safe environment to test routines and so on. And then once I was kind of ready, I had one of my regular clients come and book me, and I said, look, I can do my normal act for my normal fee, but I'm trying a new act at the moment, which is a little bit different, which is mind reading. If you want, I'll do that for nothing, but it's untested, you know, so it might be a little bit more raw. And they were like, oh no, go for it. So it gave me again the ability to do a proper gig. That's with correct. No risk. And so that was really helpful as well. And so again, I was able to find my feet. And fortunately, the experience from performing in those training sessions had given me a good enough ground. And I suppose, you know, the years of kind of experience in front of audiences anyway give me that confidence. And the final part is I had a friendly audience. So these were people that I've been performing for many years. So there might be some new faces in the audience, but most of the people knew who I was. So I didn't have to come out and win the audience, you know, because that is the most critical thing, is those first, I mean, it can be as little as 7 seconds. When you walk out, if you haven't got the audience in that first 7 seconds, you've got an uphill struggle. So to be able to come out to an audience where they were already on my side, just again made that transition all that much easier. The hard part was the head part, because people say, oh, mentalism is just a branch of magic. It is and it's not. it is a different skill. You know, it's like going from playing the drums to playing a guitar. Yes, they're both branches of music, but only some of the skills translate.
Yes.
So if you're drumming, your timing and your rhythm and so on translates, but the motions don't. The muscle memory isn't there.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was hardest getting my head out of that magician mentality and getting myself into the mentalist mentality. And I'm not 100% sure I've really done that, because there are people that might, you know, if you had some purist mentalists come and watch my shows, they might still say, actually, you're doing mental magic, because and hopefully you'll be the if you've read my material, you'll be the judge, because you'll see that I try and make it funny and entertaining rather than being this, oh, I'm very serious and I'm going to read your mind, or mysterious. You know, I'm still, you know, I'm still me. I'm still a cheeky chappy. And people say, well, what's your character? I say, well, you're looking at him. You know, I'm a big believer in really your character should, and again, this is not true of everyone. There are people that have very defined character. Piff the Magic Dragon, you know, I'm pretty sure he doesn't go down the pub dressed like that. But generally speaking, your character should just be you, but a bigger version, or a stage version of you.
Yeah.
I much prefer that, because it's a lot easier to keep it real, if you know what I mean. If you're trying to be you, you're going to do a good job of that. If you're trying to be somebody else, then you need very strong acting skills. You need to really have thought about that character and so on. And I just find it easier just to be me.
Absolutely. Did you, you know, you said that you kind of dropped away from magic for a while and just did the odd gig or two. And I know at that point you kind of left the community completely and didn't go to conventions. Did you miss it? You know, because you've been brought up in the magical world, so to speak, because your dad being a magician, removing yourself from that, was it something that you missed? Is that ultimately what brought you back? Yeah,
so I think in a sense I missed it without realizing that I was missing it. One of the things with being autistic is very good at compartmentalizing. So, and also very good at becoming obsessed with things. So for most of my life, my obsession was magic. So that was, I lived, ate and slept, breathed magic. For my non-magic friends, I was probably a pain in the arse, because I either wanted to show them tricks or talk about magic. So when I left magic, and for me, what happened is, because magic had become a job, I stopped enjoying performing. Most of my life, I couldn't go in the pub without doing tricks. We couldn't go to a party without doing tricks. And what I found is that when I stopped doing magic, I wouldn't go in pubs where they knew I was a magician, because they would ask me to do tricks. Yeah. I wouldn't reveal that I knew magic, because people would show us a trick, and I just lost all interest in doing tricks if I wasn't getting paid. And which, when you get that way, you need to take a break. So then I got into other things instead. So I got into gaming, ended up working for Sony Computer Entertainment Europe as a game designer.
Wow.
So if you're a basketball fan, I worked on Total NBA 96 on the PlayStation and Total NBA 97. I also did the handling for Pulse Challenge. Total 96, I was just a game tester, and I bullied my way in there.
That's amazing.
And I was going to say, the story about what I bullied my way in might actually be useful, and there might be a lesson in there, because effectively, I loved basketball, loved the NBA, and used to watch the NBA. And again, became obsessed, sort of learnt everything I could about at the NBA. And I used to play on my Super Nintendo. I used to play this game, NBA Live 95, with my mate Dan. He used to come around most nights and we'd play NBA Live 95 in the wee small hours. Then the PlayStation came out, and on there they had a demo disc of Total NBA 96, which was all 3D, looked incredible. And I called my mate Dan and I said, "Oh, you've got to see this, Dan. You've got to see this demo." And I put on the demo of Total NBA 96. And I said, "Doesn't that look amazing?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "But what if it plays shit?" And I went, "I'm not going to let that happen. I can't let that happen. This game is just so visually incredible. I've got to make sure this is a good game." So then I went through all manner of aggro trying to get the phone number for the development team for Total NBA, and to no avail. So in the end, I just phoned up the Sony customer service number, and I said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, I've just bought a copy of Total NBA 96, and I think it might be a pirate copy because it's on a gold disc." And they went, "That's definitely a pirate copy. The game's not even finished yet." Oh, I said, "I think the producer would probably like to speak to you. Would you mind talking to the producer?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll be happy to." So they took my number, and about an hour later, I get a phone call from fellow John Roberts. Says, "Hello, I'm the producer of Total NBA 96. I hear you picked up the pirate copy." I said, "Look, I can't talk right now. I'm right in the middle of something. Can I just take your number and call you back?" Now, I wasn't in the middle of anything, but I knew that the minute he hung up, that was it. I had no way of contacting him. So I knew he wants to talk to me. So by saying, "Give me your number. I can't talk right now. Give me your number. I'll call you back." He gave me his number. So now I've got, that was probably the biggest mistake he ever made.
Mad.
So I gave it 5 minutes and then called him back. And he said, "Yeah, I hear you got a pirate copy of Total NBA 96. I said, "Well, I haven't. But what I have got is your attention." And and so I said, "Look, this Total NBA 96, have you got basketball experts on there, or is this just the programming team?" He said, "Well, it's a programming team." I said, "Well," I said, "I can come and help." "No, oh, no, we don't really need any help." And I said, "Look, I'll come in, I'll work for a month for nothing. If I've been no help, it's cost you nothing. If you found me useful, happy days." And in the end, they kind of caved in and said, "I'll tell you what, come down on such and such a date and have a look at the game. Tell us what you think of it." So really, they wanted to let me play it for an hour and then piss off and leave us alone. So I went down there in my Scottie Pippen top and went in. They put me on this massive, front of a massive big TV. And this was before kind of flat screens were common. So this was like a sort of 75-inch CRT telly. So it was about as deep as this room as well. Give me the PlayStation and put me in front of Total NBA. And within 15 minutes, I'd spotted so many errors. Their basketball expert was a college basketball expert, not an NBA expert, and they have slightly different rules. Like in college, the foul shots is what they call one-on-one. So if you make the first shot, you get a second shot. In the NBA, it's you take one free throw worth 2 points, and they had the college version. But also a lot of the rosters were wrong because there'd been a lockout. Also, one or two of the courts were wrong. So meanwhile, as I was playing it, various members of the team would come in and ask me questions like how often they bank it off the glass and this sort of thing. And I also pointed out about the rosters, and the guy said, no, we got these rosters from the NBA, middle of last week. I said, "Yeah, well, there was a lockout until Friday." since Friday, every team has changed. Said now Rodman plays for the Bulls and he plays for them. And so it went off and he came back with a sort of fax in his hand, sort of half an hour later. He said, the NBA have just confirmed it. You're right. The rosters have all changed. So by the end of that day, they said, look, you know, here's a copy of Ridge Racer and a memory card for your time today. We think we can use you. So we'll give you a job as a lead developmental tester. So that's how I got into Sony. And then from there, the input I had on Total 96 led to me being upgraded to game design on 97. But I literally bullied my way in. So the lesson there is, if you want something, don't take no. Think, you know, if someone puts a wall in front of you, don't think, oh, damn, there's a wall. Just think, how do I get over it? How do I get under it? Is there a gap? Is there a crack? Can I make a crack? And just bully your way in. The reality is you need to then back it up. I mean, I knew the height, weight, age, stats of every single player in the NBA, so it does sometimes help being autistic and having an autistic memory. But yeah, so that's how I replaced Magic, was kind of with gaming, and then I went on to create and manage Europe's largest combat flight simulation website for a few years as well. So that kind of made up for the lack of Magic, but I would still kind of do tricks here and there. So I'd go to flight sim meets, and at the bar I might do a couple of tricks, and then I think over time the bug just bit again. But the problem is when the bug bit again, I picked up coins, and I went from being able to palm 4 coins in each hand and keep my hands around about this open to struggling to palm a coin, and the fingers just are much stiffer, and things that used to be really easy became painful. The other thing is I looked at the guys out there now doing coin magic, and I was like, holy shit. You know, I'm never gonna, and even if my hands were supple, I'd never catch up with those guys. So I thought, realistically, I'm not good enough to do the coin magic anymore, which I do find, to be quite honest, really frustrating. It frustrates me that my hands don't work as well, because I kind of still love coin magic. But then I thought, well, this is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And I've tried like fish oils and all of that kind of thing, and it doesn't really get the hands back to where they used to be. Yes. So I thought, well, my brain still works. Let's give mentalism a try. And I kind of become friends with several mentalists anyway, friends with Pete Turner, friends with Michael Murray. And it's very hard. Well, it's impossible to hang out with those guys and not get inspired, because, you know, they are just on a different planet. And so that's the kind of the long answer that you probably wasn't looking for to the short question.
Well, I'm finding this whole thing fascinating. So when you came back into it, did you come back into it full time again?
No, and I'm still not full time, because my day job I've been doing for nearly my current job, the fraud management, I've been doing for nearly 20 years now, and it pays well, and I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
And so, and I actually enjoy it as well. And so it doesn't make sense for me to walk away from a stable income, from a good stable income, and a job that I enjoy, and I've got a pension with, and all of those things.
I agree.
and I've been getting enough work to satisfy the bug. So and I say that because we're really talking pre-lockdown, because since lockdown I haven't worked. I mean, luckily I don't need to from a financial perspective, but we're now in that funny position where almost my confidence level of going back to doing a gig tomorrow, if someone phoned me and said, can you do a gig Saturday, I'd probably go, I'd say yeah, but I'd probably go back to almost that stage fright of, oh, can I still do this? Have I still got it? It's 2 years without a gig. This is the longest I've probably been without a gig. Before, whilst I wasn't out every night, every weekend, like when I was doing it full time, I was getting enough work, say, just to keep me happy, to keep that bug. And I'm now getting to the point where part of me says, well, do I take this opportunity to retire from performing altogether? But how long am I going to go before I'm really missing it again? Because there is nothing else that will give you that buzz of 800 people laughing, unless they're not supposed to be laughing. And if you read the Brain Parts chapter of Harpacrown 2, you'll find some of those times where they weren't supposed to be laughing. Which they're funny stories now. At the time they was horrific, but that's the thing, is there is nothing else that can give you that buzz that you will get from performing on stage. And this is why I've always preferred cabaret or platform, because I enjoy doing close-up now. I enjoy doing magic for small groups, but you don't get the buzz that you get from an audience.
I agree. I completely agree with you. It's kind of like with close-up, you've got to, it doesn't matter how good the group is that you've got up to, within 5 minutes, you've got to walk off and, you know, like get another group interested and do the whole thing again. While with stage, you walk out on stage, you grab their attention, and then you've got their attention for the entire time.
That's it. And even if you have stage fright, for me, when I used to get terrible stage fright, I mean, you know, to begin with, I'd book a gig, you know, before I was getting really regular work, I'd book a gig for maybe next Saturday, and by Thursday I was like, why did I take this gig? You know, and then, you know, waiting to go on, waiting to be announced, I would literally be shaking like a leaf, crapping myself. But the second you get on and you say your opening line, bang, those nerves disappear. You've still got the excitement, you've still got the adrenaline, but all that fear disappears very quickly, and then you're buzzing. But I used to have a real emotional roller coaster with performing, because you get those nights where you're not on your game. And I don't care, anyone who says, no, you're always perfect, you never have an off night, then they've either been very lucky or they've just not done a lot of gigs. Because no matter how well rehearsed you are, no matter how well practiced you are, sometimes you just don't have that connection off the audience. And you can't say it's because of this or because of that. Maybe the audience might not be responding as well as you want. Maybe your timing is just not there. But there are times, and there are times that are worse than that. There are times when you will absolutely die on your ass, and you can do the same act 100 times and kill with it. 101, you die on your ass. And emotionally, that used to destroy me.
So let me ask you a question, Mark. You came back to magic and you've been doing it ever since, and you moved into mentalism. My question is, when did you decide to start to write a book? What made you decide to create material and write a book. Were you creating material before you took this hiatus from magic, and the material in the book was made up of material beforehand? Or did you come back to magic, do mentalism, and then go, you know what, I've got some really unique ideas here. Let's write a book about this. How did that come about?
And it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So particularly with Harpacrown, the first book, a lot of that coin material I'd come up with years ago. The coin switch was like 1979. Some of the coin effects were around that era, and which just kind of like the coin bends I did as a magician rather than as a mentalist. So a lot of that coin stuff was older stuff, and I've still got some older stuff in my head. One of the things that might end up making it into a future book, if I put some more magic-y stuff in, is, I don't know if you know, is it David Arthur's Seesaw Assembly from Coin Magic?
Yeah.
I have an international version of that doesn't use the 5th coin.
Oh, wow.
So you've got like an old penny, Chinese coin, dollar, half dollar, and it's exactly the same sequence. But with international coins, that was one of those things I wanted to do, and I said to somebody, I want to do an international version, because I think in Coin Magic and possibly in David Roth's book there was lots of international effects, but there was no international Seesaw Assembly. So I said, I want to do that, and I want to do it with 4 coins. And so you can't do it with 4 coins, you'll have to have a 5th coin. And then it became a challenge. I've got to do it with 4, and it bugged me for so many years. I probably spent a couple of years on this, and then the answer was just so simple, it was ridiculous. It's one of those like slap yourself, effectively the answer was a Chinatown penny, and because such a thing didn't exist, that's why it eluded me, because Chinatown half, but all you need is a Chinatown penny, so I don't have to go and get somebody to make one for me. So that might, I say it might go in a book, because I'll have to get permission from either David Roth or I think it's David Arthur. But I'd have to get, because really it's his routine. You know, I haven't, you know, made much difference, and the reality is, it's debatable as to whether I've added anything to the effect. This is magical masturbation. It's, you know, I wanted to do it because someone told me it couldn't be done. Whether it's any better than just using 4 coins is for other people to judge, just using 4 half dollars. So some of this stuff was already there. Some of this stuff was as a result of being a mentalist. As I moved to mentalism, and over the next few years, I just tweaked things, changed things. In a lot of ways, I'm a fixer rather than a creator. A lot of my creations come from 2 places. The first one being, I need something from my act. So then usually I've got something specific in mind, and I'll create a routine from scratch. But a lot of it is I'll look at something and I'll say, I kind of really like that, but I don't like that bit. Yeah. Or I kind of like that idea, I just don't like the way it's been used. I think I can use that idea somewhere else. And so a lot of it really has been fixing things to remove what I saw as problems. And the reason I say what I saw as problems is because other people might not see them as problems.
Yes.
And in many cases, the original might be perfectly fine, but there was something about my philosophy or my style that didn't fit. So where the book really came from is over a number of years, I would share a lot of these ideas with Michael Murray, Steve Haresign, Pete Turner, Fraser Parker, and various other people, and Atlas Brooking. And then they were saying, you've got to put this in a book, you've got to release this stuff. And I was like, yeah, but a lot of these things I didn't see as that valuable. Some
Yes.
of the ideas, I think, well, surely someone had to have thought of that before me. You know, it's such a simple idea.
Yeah.
One of them, you know, one of them is what I call the scrap it principle, which is you say, oh, think of a name, whatever, just write it down on there, fold it up, and then you say, oh no, scrap that, let's do something else. So you tear the paper up, you've got the peak,
Yeah.
and now you're one ahead, and you do something else, and then you come back to that, you know, somewhere else, and by then they've forgotten they even wrote it down. And you know, when I shared that, I think with Pete and Michael Murray, like, oh, it's fantastic. I was like, yeah, but it's so simple. Somebody must have thought of that before. So I didn't really see this stuff as being worthy of a release. But over a couple of years, Pete, Michael Murray, all these other people saying, you've got to release this stuff. You've got to put this stuff in a book. And in the end, it was at Camp Mental, I think it was. And Steve Hairsign said, look, you, and this was when Michael Murray released A Piece of My Mind. And Steve Hairsign said, you've got to release this stuff. And I think I'd shown a few things. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you'll publish it, I'll write it. And then took several years for Harpacrown to actually be written. But that's kind of where it came from.
Okay, that's very.
So it was more. I was more kind of bullied into writing a book than thought. You know, I'll write a book. And Harpacrown, there's things that if I could go back and rewrite it, I'd change. I'm dyslexic, and it turns out half of my proofreaders were as well. So you will find, and I really went through Harpacrown 1 with a fine-tooth comb when I was writing Harpacrown 2, and I was horrified, even with me as a dyslexic, the amount of typos and grammatical errors that I found. Totally Free Will should be a lot better written, and Harpacrown 2 should be a lot better written again. You'll probably still find errors in there. I mean, I'm dyslexic and I left school at 15. So, hopefully by the third book, I've learned a lot. But so for me, the important thing was, one, everything in there is real world, tested, usable material. You get a lot of books where you got a couple of standout effects and a bunch of filler. You know, then you get, like, you know, Gary Jones and Chris Congreve, where everything is a worker.
Yeah, exactly.
But those aren't the norm. But they are the standard that I wanted to reach. There is a chapter in Harpacrown of what I call brain farts. This is stuff that has not been extensively audience tested, but I'm upfront about that in the book. I say, these are ideas that I think have got merit, and I think you can run with them, but, you know, they might need a little bit of further work. But I wanted it all to be workable, but also I wanted it all to be practical. You know, none of this, oh, well, you can only do that if you've kind of got, you know, a 12-degree angle, it's a full moon, and everyone's got one eye shut. So everything had to be practical. The other thing is my performing philosophy is, as much as I've worked on all the, you know, knuckle busting slides, when I'm in front of an audience, I don't want to have to think. And, you know, you'll know this from your own performing experience, is that the more you have to think about what you're doing, the more chance you're going to cock up. and B, the less time you have to think about what's going on in front of you. And that's the important thing, is dealing with the audience, working, you know, taking advantage of that moment there, giving this guy your full attention, reading the room, all of those things. You can do a lot better if you're not having to think, well, you know, where is in my 724 index is the thing I need. How do I get my hands into that knuckle busting position? So all of the things in the books are straightforward, practical, and they're tested in front of an audience. But my other thing is I wanted the book to be fun to read. I've got a lot of, and you can't quite see my library over there, but I've got quite an extensive library there. And I've got a lot of books that you have to force yourself to read. There's gold in there, but it's a real hard slog to read them. You know, 13 Steps to Mentalism is a classic example. Yeah, it's an absolute treasure trove, but it's bloody hard to read. So I wanted the book to be fun to read. I wanted it to be, you get to the end of it and you think, oh, I really enjoyed that book. And hopefully you got some material out of it. So those were, once I decided I was going to write a book, I thought I want to write a book that I want to read, if you know what I mean.
What made you go?
Ironically, I have read it.
What made you go for a book instead of doing like a DVD set or a download set or something? Because that's the norm these days. Books are almost falling out of fashion a little bit.
Well, I'll refer you back to my earlier statement that I'm a shit performer. And I say that joking, but there is an element of truth to it. I record a lot of my gigs. I have never watched one back that I've been happy with. I have never actually watched a performance of mine and thought, oh, I'll put that up on the internet. There are a few people that have seen some of those videos, partly for give me an honest opinion, and they watched it and went, you shit. But I have never watched a video, and I will probably cringe when I watch this interview back.
Really?
So there is an element of I don't like seeing myself perform. But the other one is I love books. To me, you get a lot of pleasure out of a book. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of the humor in the book, which isn't as funny if I said, even though when you read the book, it's almost like I'm talking to you. Some of that written humor doesn't translate to the spoken word. But the other thing is, if I perform a routine on a video, a lot of people are just going to go out and copy how I perform it. In the book, I give quite extensive scripts, but they might not be quite the script I use when I'm performing. So I'll give you, should we say, a shell, but it is really hard to watch somebody and not go out and do it that way. When you read it in a book, you kind of have to make your own interpretation. So I like books, but the other thing is, I love having a library, and I still think the best material. There's some great videos out there. There's you know, Drew Backenstoss's lecture, Mark Paul's lectures, all of the stuff on Alakazam's Academy. There's some fantastic stuff out there on video, but the best stuff, for my mind, is in books. And you can put a book in your bag. You can read it in bed. You can read it on the train. All right, you can watch the video on your phone, put your headphones in.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as that physical connection with a book.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always been a fan of books. 99% of what I've learned is from those books up on that shelf up there. So to me, it was always going to be a book rather than a video.
Okay. Well, could you perform one of the tricks from one of the books as you have
Yes,
a close-up pad in front of you?
and I'm just trying to work out. Actually, I'll perform something out of the book, and I just want to check to see what my prediction is first. Always helps. So, got a prediction here.
Okay.
Pack of cards here. Now, this really, these are not designed really for Zoom. I don't do Zoom shows. I've been asked to do some Zoom lectures, and I've basically said no because I like that connection to an audience, and also it's really hard to peak a billet on Zoom. Just write that down, show it to me. Now tear it up. So I've got a prediction in this envelope, but you're going to make all the decisions, and this is one of the problems with being a lefty. Is
Ryland can relate to that. Ryland's a lefty.
But as you can see, pack of cards contains a lot of cards. Now, obviously, because I've just shown you those cards, I'm just going to give them a bit of a mix because I don't want you, I don't want to influence your choices. But as I say, you're going to make all of the choices. Let's mix them up a bit more. And as you can see, I'm not a magician or anything. I'm not, you know, I don't do this in the same gig as I do my gambling routine. This is one of the things of being a mentalist, is you want to look quite ham-fisted. So at the moment, I was going to say we've got too many cards. We've got one less now. So we need to eliminate some of these cards. We need to get rid of some of these cards. So I'm just going to split them roughly in half. Left hand or right hand? So left or right?
Left.
Left?
Yeah.
Okay, they're eliminated. So now you're going to make all the decisions. Do you want me to keep these in the same order they're in, or do you want me to mix them up?
Give them a quick mix.
Give them a quick mix. Cut or leave them as they are?
That's fine.
So again, we've got too many cards, so we need to get rid of some. That's about half. And again, we need to get rid of some to left or right. And because wouldn't normally say this, but obviously because your audience is predominantly magicians, the ones you choose are eliminated. We'll get rid of them, just so there's no doubt. So left or right?
Right.
Right. My right or your right?
My right.
Hang on a minute. No. Your right's
your
my
left.
So you do want my left. I was just trying to get the cheap gag where you say you're right, and I say I usually am. But so again, just which ones
right.
do you want to get rid of? Left or right? My right?
Yeah.
And again, there was no equivocating there. It was whatever you said was going to go.
That's fine. Yeah.
Again, mix or leave them as they are?
Leave them.
And cut or not cut?
Cut.
And again, I think it's about half. So left, again, we need to get rid of some of these. So we're getting rid of the left hand or the right hand?
The left hand. Your left hand.
Left hand.
Yeah.
So again, they're gone. So now I'm going to, and this is where obviously being on Zoom is a little bit of a disadvantage, because normally I wouldn't be able to see these. I have got a screen, but it's not that kind of trick. So Out of these, do you want to keep number? So you're just going to choose one of these now. Do you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6?
6.
6. So this one here.
Yes.
Yep. So you could have had any of those.
Yes.
But you chose this one, and likewise, you could have had any of those if you'd have made different choices. And actually, I nearly forgot that. So my screen's there, but my camera's there. So again, you could have had any one of these, or if you'd made different choices, you could have had any one of those. And
yeah. Wow. That's great.
So that is that I call gone fishing. The reason being is I did it there as a prediction.
Yeah. That's great, Mark. That's so good.
Yeah, so I've just performed it as a prediction, but you can do it as like a mind read in effect. So once you get to this part, you hand them the cards, you have them spread them, and think of one. And with a tiny bit of fishing, you can name the card. So you literally. Is this a high card?
Yes.
If they say, yep, you're halfway there. If they say no, you're still halfway there. If they kind of go, ooh, then you know it's in the middle. So, and again, the fishing procedures in the book. You can also, though, do it as a tossed out deck. So you can have each person name. You can have each person hand. So you get 6. You give person the card and have him hand a card to 5 other people. So you've now got 6 people, and not only do you name who the cards, but you name who's got which card. And again, there's a very simple method in the book for working out who's even though they've all been mixed, you can figure out who's got which cards. So you can actually say, oh, you're thinking of the King of Diamonds, you're thinking of the Queen of Spades, and so on.
That's great.
So one effect, multiple ways it can be played. But if we now take the same effect, just change the cards, you've got a completely different routine.
Okay.
So we use these Scrabble cards. So same procedure, only now we're using Scrabble cards instead of playing cards. So it now becomes a completely different effect. I'm going to skip all the mixing and so on. I'm just going to really kind of rush through the procedure, just to sort of give you the idea. So again, the other important thing is, as we are splitting them off, you'll see that they're all different as well. But yeah, we've got too many cards. So do you want to get rid of the left or the right?
Get rid of left.
Left. So they're gone. And again, I'll just go through quickly. One tip, if you do use Scrabble cards for this, get some fanning powder, because these really don't spread that well. So again, get rid of the left or get rid of the right?
Get rid of the right.
So they're gone. So again, get rid of the left or get rid of the right?
Get rid of the right.
So now we've got some Scrabble letters completely at random. Obviously, it would be more random if we'd have done the mixing procedure. But just
Yeah.
have a look at that and see if you can make a word using all of
There's
those
quite an
letters.
obvious word I can make. Yeah.
and intentionally so.
Isolate.
Yeah. So now you've got a beautiful word force, because you hand those to somebody, and they're purposely in order, because you don't want some illiterate bastard not finding the word.
Yeah.
I've picked this word because there's not a person in the country does not know that word. Probably not a person in the world. But when they receive them, you say, spread them out like a hand of cards, have a look through them, and see if you can make a word using as many letters as you can. They're going to go, yeah, I can. Now, from the audience perspective, you have no idea how many letters they've used.
Yeah.
So, or theoretically, what letters they've got. So you can now do with that as you will. Also, if you want, you can force the number 7, because each one of those is worth 1.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So if I really just wanted a long-winded way to force the number 7, I could go through this procedure. So if you've got a word, add up the numbers, now get rid of the cards. I wouldn't do that just to force the number 7, because there are easier ways to do it. But effectively, I've now forced a word and a number.
Yeah.
So, and yet a minute ago, that was a card prediction trick, or a mind reading trick, or a tossed out deck. So often, just changing the props, you can repurpose something for a completely new use. And again, if you want to force a word, that's a really nice way. You've got the Scrabble cards, and your mixing procedure is, well, you can't put them in a bag and shake them up, so we just need to give them a mix. Let's eliminate some, blah blah blah, and you force the word. And these are genuine Scrabble cards. I literally just bought these off of Amazon. It's getting harder to get this, but it is the Scrabble cards. There is another Scrabble game called Scrabble Dash. That won't work. But with Scrabble cards, that is one set of this had everything I needed to make that deck up.
That's great.
I actually used that, funny enough, for Magic Square, would you believe, which is in the book Scrabbled. But you don't have to. You can just do the word force, use it for whatever purpose you want.
How many books have you written now, Mark?
3. So Harpacrown, Harpacrown 2, and Totally Free Will.
Right.
And I can show you the signature effect from Totally Free Will. I'm not sure how well the prediction will be visible on this screen, but what I can do is I can take a photo of the prediction and send it through Messenger. Obviously, again, this is not something I do on Zoom. This is something that I do face to face. But I'll show you this because I know you love free will. Now, again, just to give it a different presentation, I'm often asked, what good is mentalism in the real world? And I still got to get used to looking over there and not at my screen. Problem is, I can see me there, I can see you over there. So what use is mentalism in the real world? This is all very well, this mind reading art, but how can you use it? Well, it is actually very useful in the real world. For instance, imagine if I was a salesperson, I could use my skills to influence you to make the choices I want. Yeah. And in fact, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm so confident that I've already written out the sales contract, and I'll let you see. I'll let you have this half. You can hold it. Now, I'm just going to see if it will focus.
Yeah, it's kind of focusing, yeah.
I don't know if you can see the words on that.
Not really.
You can probably see there are some. What I'll do at the end, obviously in person, you'd see that really clear. At the end, I'll take a photo with my phone and shoot it across to your messenger, and you can use your digital magic to put it up on screen.
Got it.
So I'm going to leave that with you. Say in the real world, I would give this to the person, and I'm going to put the other half away for now. Obviously, if you saw this half, it would be impossible to influence you because you know what I'm trying to get you to do.
Yeah.
But as I say, imagine in the real world, I'm a salesperson, and I've got some products.
Okay.
Now, one of these products I want you to have, because to be quite honest, I can't get shot on. One of them, I don't really want you to choose because there's a trend coming on the horizon. I want to hold it back for myself.
Okay.
And the last item, I want to discontinue because they were ball ache to make. So I'm going to use my skills to make sure that you make exactly the choices I want you to. So now we've got a set of keys here. And again, I don't want you to be influenced by the fact that these are the keys to a brand new Mercedes. We've got a pen. And again, I don't want you to be influenced by the fact that this is made by a company called Mont Blanc. And finally, we've got a mobile phone. And again, I don't want you to be influenced by the fact that this is a top of the range mobile phone. I want you just to go with your gut feeling and try not to be influenced by any of those things. And I say I don't want you to be influenced, but the truth is I've already started that process. Now, the first problem we've got is there's two of us, but we've got 3 items. So we need to get rid of one straight off the bat. So which one of these do you want to reject? The keys, the pen, or the phone?
The keys.
You want to reject the keys. So that leaves the pen and the phone. Which one do you want to keep for yourself, and which one do you want me to have?
I want to keep the pen.
You want to keep the pen?
Yeah.
And so you're leaving me the phone. So now you've got some choices to make, and I want you to think very carefully about these choices, because later on, you're going to think back to this and you're going to go, what the fuck? And you're going to have a tack of what if I'd have done things differently. So the first question I'm going to ask is, do you want to swap the pen for the keys?
No.
Do you want to swap the pen for the phone?
No.
Do you want to swap the keys for the phone?
Yes.
And finally, do you want to swap anything for anything?
No, I'm happy.
So, as I said, we've got these 3 items, and let me just again show you that there's only one half of this prediction.
Yeah.
And nothing else in there. I'm showing it to my screen, not the camera. So you'll see that these 2 halves match up perfectly.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if I can get it to focus. Oh, there's a little bit. Whoops.
A little bit, but not really.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, let me just get, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to photo this upside down so we get the Harpacrown in there. I'm just going to line these up, and I'm just going to take a photo with my phone and send it to you over Messenger.
Okay.
But it says, I'll read this out. You're about to make some choices. These will seem to be completely free. You will even have chances to change your mind, and yet you will reject the phone, which you did. You will keep the pen, which you did. And you will give me the keys, which you did. And that's totally free will.
Yeah, that's really good, Mark. Really clever.
Yeah, and that was my kind of holy grail for free will, because I wanted completely free choices, prediction handed out up front, and so on.
That's
So
great.
that's in totally free will.
That's brilliant. Let me ask you one more question. What have you got planned moving forward? Do you have another book that you're wanting to write, or?
Yeah, I've probably got one more book in me. I'm in two minds with the next book. I've got more mentalism things to go in it. There's things that, again, I wasn't quite ready to give up in Harpacrown 2. A lot of the material in Harpacrown and Harpacrown 2 and in Totally Free Will, I'm still using today. A lot of people will give you the material they're done with. And there is some things in the books that I'm not using very often today, but a lot of it is things that I'm actually using. There was a couple of things I weren't quite ready to give away. They might go into the next book. There's also more magic-y stuff. There's things like, even though I can't really do the stuff anymore, I still know how it's done. Things like my version of the wipe clean, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Omar's wipe clean, where he pulls up the sleeves. I like that, but one, if I didn't have sleeves, I didn't really have a justification for that part. So all I did, and I don't normally do this sitting down. So and as we discussed earlier, my hands don't work the way they used to. Plus, they're cold at the moment and very dry. But so it's like this. Yeah. So let me try standing up and doing it. I'm used to doing this standing, and my camera's at a very weird angle. So that's the wipe clean. So you're doing a full. You're probably getting some flashes here because I'm used to people looking at eye level, whereas my camera's kind of just slightly above my nuts at the moment. But
that's great.
It's that kind of motion where you're wiping with both hands and you're keeping really the fingers apart. So that's my version of the wipe clean. I've also got my own version of a retention, and I'm not sure. Again, I haven't done this for years, so I'm not sure my timing's going to be there. But one of the typical problems with the normal retention is you get this kind of finger flinging move. I've exaggerated it there, but often when you see someone do the retention, you see them. That was terrible, but you see them doing this where they're coming and grabbing. And these fingers move, the fingers move too much. Now, I don't know, again, if I can still do it. I haven't done this for many years, but that's my version of the retention. And
yeah, that's good.
I don't know if I can, if I can, I don't know how much kind of teaching you have on the channel, but I'm quite happy to tip that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. It's not a problem. I've got no problem with it. So,
but yeah, so I can teach this, and what it is instead of doing the traditional where you're grabbing this coin and pulling it in, obviously with much better timing than that. If you ever do that for a real audience, if you ever see me do that for a real audience, punch me in the face. But instead of doing this motion, what's actually happening is as you close your fingers, you'll see, in fact, if you hold your hand out and close your fingers, you'll feel your thumb wanting to pull in.
Yeah.
It's natural, your thumb wants to pull in. So what's actually happening is instead of putting it in the palm, you're just putting it slightly over towards this fleshy part of the thumb. And then I'm going to try and do this without bringing the fingers up. But what happens is as you close the hand, the thumb pivots the coin
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's clever.
So the thumb pivots the coin into these fingers. And what actually happens is, because these fingers come up, and it's actually a lot easier to do when you're closing the hand. If you're trying to do it with just the thumb, it's actually trying to do that with just the thumb is a lot harder. But what happens is, as the fingers come up and the thumb closes, it forces the correct timing. So what happens is, and I haven't done this for years, so my technique is not what it once was. But you'll see that the timing should be almost perfect to get that retention.
It looks amazing. I've never seen anything like that before.
And it's almost, I'd say almost self-work. Again, you do need to practice and say, I haven't practiced this for years, so my technique is probably not what it should be. And again, I'm not used to doing a retention while seated at a table. But the beautiful thing is, say, it actually, you don't have to think about the timing, because when the fingers get to this point, that's when the coin starts to move. And so it is almost, you can almost do it slow motion. And again,
yeah, I like that.
I'm not seeing how well that kind of looks.
It looks great. It looks really
good. But that probably doesn't look as good as it would if I'd been practicing it.
It still looks very good.
But yeah, so that's my little giveaway. But again, that potentially will go in the book. The full routine that I created the Chandaue switch for, so all of the choreography for the coin to impossible location, might go in the book. So if I do another book, it's probably going to be part magic, part mentalism.
And when would you be aiming to bring that out for? I mean, obviously you've not even started writing it yet, but in an ideal world, if stars aligned, when would you be thinking?
Knowing me, a couple of years, because like Harpacrown 2 took me 4 years to write. And I don't think people realise how much work goes into a book. And this is why, I look at like Gary Jones, Chris Congreve, John Carey, these guys that just churn out material. And I want to be careful with the words there, because churning out material almost sounds derogatory, but they're not. They are churning out gold. So like, they'll come out with 88 effects in a book.
Yeah.
And everyone is a winner. If you put my 3 books together, there's not 88 tricks in all 3 of them. But the amount of effort that goes into that, and those guys would have put this same level of effort in, is ridiculous. First, you've got to come up with words. You need, it's easier if you're doing almost like a textbook. Put this here, put that there, do a double lift, turn it over. If you want to put some soul into the book, you need to be in the right frame of mind. You need to write it, but then you need to read it, and you'll rewrite a chapter 10 times. I mean, I will go through the chapter, I'll reread it. I'll also give the chapter to several people and have them read it in front of me. I always try and get people to read it in front of me, because I put a lot of humour in the books. And the only way to tell if it's really good, you send something to somebody, they go, oh, that's really funny, I enjoyed that. But what they may be saying, actually, I could detect that there was a joke in there, and it kind of half made me smile. So I will give the chapter to somebody and I'll watch them. And if they hit the funny and they burst out laughing, I know that it's hit the spot. If they kind of just go, I know that joke's missed, in some cases, it might be that they don't share my humour. So I'll get several people. If 9 people laugh out loud, one person doesn't, then I work out it's funny. But then you go through it again and you say, what's missing? What's in there that doesn't need to be in there? So you start chopping things down. Like Harpacrown 2, if I'd have just put it out, it would have been 600, 700 pages. So you have to kind of go through and then chop it out. You also have to kind of make sure that when you start writing on year 1 and you're still writing 3 years later, you've then got to read through it and make sure your writing style hasn't changed, because you can find that over time, your writing style changes, the format of the chapter changes. So you want to go back and make sure it's all consistent. And so it might need, you either might have to go back and rewrite an earlier chapter, or you might have to rewrite a new chapter. But then comes the real hard work, and that is crediting and permission. Because there is nothing in any book that is published today that is truly original. There are some brilliant original material, but everything in pretty much every one of those books will owe something to somebody somewhere. And so the first thing you've got to do is send that material to a lot of people, and see if they say, actually, somebody wrote that 25 years ago, 30 years ago. That belongs to someone. So that's the first thing. You need to do your due diligence, make sure you're not reinventing the wheel. The second thing is you've got to say, well, who do I owe for this effect? You know, without the person that came up with this idea, even though your idea might be completely different. For instance, this routine here, the Scrabble thing, you know, that originally, the basic principle, completely different, but the basic principle, Carol Fox, I think, I might have to check my credit in Harpacrown. But then where I got the seed of it was from Scott Creasy. So the next question is, have I actually added anything? You know, am I just putting out Scott Creasy's trick with a red deck, you know, instead of a blue deck? So the first thing I need to do is say, Scott, this is what I want to do. Are you happy with it? Get his permission. And, you know, some people will say, well, yeah, but he didn't invent it. It goes all the way back to Carol Fox. Therefore, it's anybody's. Thing is, though, putting that trick out is not as important as respecting Scott Creasy. And I mean, I just use Scott Creasy because he was that. It could be Bob Cassidy, it could be, you know, Rocco Solano or whatever. But at the end of the day, no trick in a book is worth putting somebody's nose out of joint, or upsetting somebody, or disrespecting somebody. So the process of figuring out who you need to credit and whose permission you need to get can take, I think for Harpacrown 1, it was something like 2 years of trying to track people down, trying to ask people, trying to get permission. It was a little bit quicker with Harpacrown 2. And again, in some cases, I had a chapter all written up, sent it to the person who I owed a part to, and they didn't give me permission. And not because they're a horrible person or whatever. When most people in this industry, if you say to them, I want to use your idea in this way, and you've added something, or you've not just literally copied their idea and said, I want to sell it, most people will give you permission.
Yeah.
When they don't, they usually have a really good reason for not wanting to give you permission. It may be that they're still marketing it, they're still getting an income from it, and you know, it's their right to say no. So a big part of it is that process of effectively making sure that that book is ethically sound.
Yeah.
And then it is going to the proofreaders, chasing them, final edits, you know, and then finally getting the layout, the illustrations. You might have to get 100 photos for your illustrations. You've got to go to the artist unless you are lucky enough to be as good at drawing as Phil Smith. You know, there's a massive process in writing a book. So anyone that puts a book out has got my respect. People like John Kerry that put out, or Paul Gordon that put out like sort of 72 books. That might not be the exact number, but between John Kerry and Paul Gordon, they've released a huge amount of material. You know, absolute respect, because it's really hard work. And sometimes I think when you see somebody release 3 books in a year, it's easy to assume it was an easy task. So yeah, 2 years, maybe 4. And again, I'm very good at giving you long answers to short questions.
That's fine, Mark. And it's been an incredible interview. I've got one last question for you. Outside of the book, is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you haven't done that you'd like to do? Because you've done it all. You've bought the T-shirt. You've had an amazing career. You've performed all over the UK. You know, and you're in a situation now where you're very happy with the job that you do. You're creating magic. You're releasing books. Everything's great. But is there something, a burning desire to do something that you want to do that you haven't yet done?
I would say probably the 2 things on my bucket list, and come February you would have done both of them, bastard. Is probably the 2 things on my bucket list would be lecture at the Magic Circle and lecture at Blackpool.
Yeah.
And other than that, you know, just keep learning. Every day is a school day, as they say. You know, I'm still learning. I pick up Fedden's book, and just earlier you showed me an effect before we started the interview, blew my mind. And really, when you see Craig's next effect, you're going to want it.
Thanks, Mark.
But you know, keep learning, hanging out with the guys. And the important thing for me ultimately isn't to be remembered for the books, for the magic, for the any of that stuff. What I'd like on my headstone, well, I'd like not to be in there. That would be ideal. But what I'd like on my headstone is he was a good bloke. You know, that's how I want to be remembered, not necessarily, oh, he was a great magician, he was a great mentalist, or wrote brilliant books. Just, he was a decent bloke.
Absolutely.
That's how I want to be remembered.
Absolutely. Well, you know
Problem
what?
is, I'll be remembered for he talks a lot. But
well, you know what? I think anybody who's watched this will know how much you've given away today. It's been a masterclass. And I think everybody watching this is going to think you're a good bloke, because you absolutely are. And Mark, seriously, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview. I really appreciate it. And thank you for doing what most people don't do, and sharing some magic as well. It was amazing to watch.
And do one more, one more unpublished.
One more to finish off. I would love to see one last one. That would be great.
And normally I write the prediction for this, but in this case, because I'd already anticipated the whole issue with the camera, so instead I'm going to use, and again, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, like Cluedo
these
cards.
are Cluedo cards.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to use these. I'm going to make a quick prediction. Actually, let's start with the weapon. So I'll take that. Now let's get to the rooms. I don't think that one's going to do the job. And people, yeah, I think there. Now, normally I wouldn't do it this way. Normally I literally write the prediction on a business card. However, there is a version of this where you use two spectators and one of them selects cards and puts them in the old, if you've ever played Cluedo, you know that there's the black envelope that you put the crime cards in. So I'm just going to put those in there. And the idea of the Cluedo game is everyone else has to guess what is in this envelope. But we're not going to do that. We're going to play psychic Scrabble. So this is a prediction. Here I've got some index cards, and what I've done is I've written, and again, I don't know how well you can see this, but I've written all of the different outcomes, combinations that you can have with Scrabble. So for instance, we've got Miss Scarlet in the dining room with the rope. We've got Dr. Orchard in the library with the rope again. Professor Plum in the ballroom with the rope. It's just random, but the rope keeps coming up. Dr. Orchard in the billiard room with the revolver. Dr. Orchard again in the study with a candlestick. Miss Scarlet in the lounge with the candlestick, and so on all the way through.
Yeah.
So you're going to pick a crime at random, and I'm just going to again give these a mix. And again, if we was doing this in person, I would then let you cut the cards. So now I'm just going to start dealing, and I want you to stop when you just get a feeling that the time is right. Just tell me to stop.
Stop.
Here.
Yeah.
So again, you could have stopped earlier. I'm just going to put that there. Well, that looked a bit movie there on the camera. It wasn't.
That's fine.
So you stopped me there. Now, if you'd have stopped me one earlier, you would have got Mrs. Peacock. And again, I'm showing it to the screen instead of the camera. You would have got Mrs. Peacock in the conservatory with the dagger. Again, if you'd have stopped me earlier than that, you would have got Colonel Mustard in the library with the lead pipe. And again, one earlier, Professor Plum in the study with the revolver. Likewise, if you'd have stopped me one later, you would have got Dr. Orchard in the billiard room with the revolver.
Yep.
Two later, Reverend Green in the study with the rope. And again, Professor Plum, and so on. So as you can see, you know, if you'd have stopped at a different point, we would have had a completely different outcome. So let's have a look at what we put in the envelope. So it was Miss Scarlet in the hall.
Yeah.
With the dagger. Let's have a look at where you stopped me. That is.
Look at that, Miss Scarlet in
the hall with the dagger.
That's a great premise, Mark. That's a wonderful premise.
Yeah, and so I don't normally really do it with these. I normally do it with a pad, and so I'm going to try reporting a crime that hasn't happened, and I want you to note down the time So the current time, because this is the time of the report, and just initial it. And of course, the reason for that is to just, as you can probably guess, this is a form of out to lunch. It's not the traditional out to lunch. And the differences in this you'll see in the book. But that having them put the time of the report and initial it, I don't like this idea of, oh, can you just sign this so I can't switch it? So I have them write the time that I'm reporting the crime as a as them being able to then effectively sign this card. Without that, can you sign it?
That's clever thinking.
I then write the prediction, and I say, so I've now reported that crime, and that's here. Now we're going to actually do the crime, and then they go through the selection. So you could have had a lot of different outcomes, and again, I can show this prediction before we turn over the card, so I can turn the pad over, have them, so I just confirm the time, read out the prediction, and then we turn it over. So that's how I normally do it. But again, you could do it as a two-person, because you can have one person select the 3 cards, you put them in the envelope, and then the other person chooses a crime and they match. So you could do it as a two-person synchronicity as well. Yeah,
that's a great.
Or you could use the cards for the prediction. So again, but what I like is the fairness of it.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that stop 1, 2, 3 later or earlier, completely different outcome.
That's great. That's really cool. I love that. I absolutely love that. Mark, what a great way to end the interview. And one more time, I want to say thank you. Now, if people want to buy your books, obviously they're available from a lot of different magic dealers, but can they get them directly from you?
Yeah, you can get them directly from me. I'm probably, in fact, what I'll do, Craig, is I'll sort out a discount code for Magic TV. And I'll sort of good discount out, like 25% or something. So if you buy the book as a result of getting of watching this interview, or being a fan of Craig's channel, go on Harpacrown, harpacrown.co.uk, put in the code that Craig will have in the description. That's down in the description. I'm not used to this YouTube stuff.
Yeah, it'll be in the description, right at the very top of the description.
Don't forget, click like, subscribe, and the bell, whatever that does.
That's amazing.
But yeah, if you use that code, you'll get a 25% discount.
That's great. And thank you so much. That's amazing, because the books are awesome, as you know. I absolutely love them. They're unbelievable. They're really, really good, packed full of solid material. And I'm going to be doing a review on them soon anyway. So if you guys want to pick it up, the discount code will be down below. And if people want to connect with you on social media, can they do that, Mark?
Yeah, add me on Facebook. I mean, I don't use I don't have like a public page and that kind of thing. I don't use social media for marketing because going back to what we spoke about earlier, I'm not looking for work, but by all means, if you want to add me as a friend on Facebook, if you want to send me a message through Messenger, if you've got any questions or anything, just reach out to me and I'll always do my best to answer. I'm not always quick. One, because I'm quite busy with work and family. And the other thing is that if you're not on my friends list, it puts them in a little different folder.
Yeah, the other folder, yeah.
I don't always find them until weeks later.
That's fine. So connect with you on Facebook, but it might take a while for you to get back to them. Excellent. And if they want the book, go to the URL, which is at the bottom of the screen, put in the discount code, and you can get the books at a discounted price.
Yeah.
Mark, like I said, it's been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. And when you have written that 4th book, let me know. and we will shout about it from the rooftops for you. How's that sound?
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Well, let's just hope that I can keep it to the same quality. Which, well, the truth is, if it's not going to be that quality, I won't do it.
I've got to say, if you didn't think it was 100%, I don't think you'd put it out because you're that sort of guy. But I'm pretty sure that it will be coming out because you've got so much amazing material. But Mark, one more time, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Have an amazing day. On behalf of everyone that watches on Magic TV, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your time, Craig, and thanks everyone for sitting through this and watching me ramble on for God knows how long.
I don't know how long either, but it's been pure gold. Guys, leave a comment in the comments down below. I'm sure Mark will read it. And don't forget, I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. So thank you very much. On behalf of Mark, I'll see you again. My name's Craig from Magic TV.